Namaste and a very warm welcome. On behalf of Chairperson Sita Reddy and her committee, I, Shilpa Raju, Executive Secretary, Flow Hyderabad, extend a very warm welcome to our esteemed speaker, Ms. Ghazal Alag, our moderator, Dr. Suman Rangabashyam, past chairpersons Flow and Y-Flow, and Flow members joining us today. May I now request everyone to please rise for the national anthem. We request the photographers to kindly refrain from clicking pictures.
Jana Gana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Vanga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Uchchala Jaladhi Taranga तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे Jaya 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 He.
Every successful business begins the same way, not with investors, valuations, or market share, but with a simple question: what problem can I solve? And the distance between this question and an IPO is not measured in years, but in resilience, innovation, and the courage to keep moving forward. And today, we are here to explore that journey. To invoke positivity, I request our guest speaker, Ms. Ghazal Alag, our moderator, Dr. Suman Rangabashyam, Chairperson Sita Reddy, and Ms. Prachi Trivedi Shah and Ms. Kalpana Yerra from Swastik Vikas Foundation, our Premium Platinum Initiative sponsor, to kindly join for the lamplighting. Request our speaker, moderator, Ms. Sita Reddy, to please stay for a photograph. And may I request Flow past chairpersons, Ms. Hina Srivastava, Ms. Manjula Reddy, Ms. Ajita Yogesh, Ms. Rekha Reddy, Ms. Monica Agarwal, Ms. Rekha Lahoti, Ms. Priyanka Ganeriwal, Ms. Sona Chatwani, Ms. Ritu Shah, Ms. Priya Gazdar, and Y-Flow chairperson Ms. Khushbu Daga, and Y-Flow past chairperson Ms. Mansi Malik to please join for a photograph. We applaud our leaders who have each contributed to shaping the strong foundation of Flow Hyderabad. I invite our guest speaker, Ms. Ghazal Alag, our moderator, Dr. Suman Rangabashyam, and our chairperson, Ms. Sita Reddy, onto the dais. And I request Ms. Sita Reddy to kindly felicitate our esteemed speakers. It is my privilege to introduce our distinguished speaker for the day. Ms. Ghazal Alag built one of India's most recognizable brands out of a personal need: safe, toxin-free products for her own child, and turned that insight into Asia's first Made Safe certified brand, Mama Earth. As co-founder and Chief Innovation Officer of Honasa Consumer, she has led the company from a single idea to a portfolio spanning Mama Earth, the Derma Co., Aqualogica, Be Blunt, and Dr. Shades, taking Honasa to a unicorn status within 6 years and a public listing on BSE and NSE in 2023. She was ranked 46th on Fortune India's 100 Most Powerful Women's list in 2026 and was featured on the covers of Forbes and Fortune India. Millions also know her as a judge on Shark Tank India, where her instinct for backing the right founder became as recognized as her own entrepreneurial journey. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Ghazal Alag. And guiding today's conversation is Dr. Suman Rangabashyam, an accomplished author, TEDx speaker, social entrepreneur, professor, and management coach. As the managing director of Marketome Private Limited, she has mentored businesses and individuals in their growth journeys through over 600 management sessions, impacting over 18,000 professionals and students. A recipient of 22 awards, an independent director herself, and a mentor to women directors with the Institute of Directors, Dr. Suman is widely respected for her insightful perspectives on leadership, business, and digital economy. Please welcome Dr. Suman Rangabashyam. And we now invite her to lead us through this session, which promises to be insightful and thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to our distinguished speaker, Ms. Ghazal Alag, and our esteemed moderator, Dr. Suman Rangabashyam, past chairpersons Flow and Y-Flow, and members of the Flow fraternity for today's session from idea to IPO. At Flow Hyderabad, we often speak about empowering women through knowledge, opportunity, and enterprise. But empowerment is not a destination, it is a journey. It begins with an idea, grows through determination, and survives setbacks, embraces change, and for a few extraordinary businesses, reaches milestones that once seemed unimaginable. That journey is what today's session is all about. As entrepreneurs, professionals, and business leaders, we are living in one of the most exciting periods of India's economic story. Innovation is no longer confined to boardrooms or large corporations. It is being driven by individuals who dare to think differently, solve real problems, and build businesses with purpose. More importantly, we are witnessing an increasing number of women leading this transformation, not just creating successful companies, but redefining leadership itself. We are committed to nurturing that spirit, whether it is supporting first-generation entrepreneurs, enabling women-led businesses to scale, creating opportunities for learning, or building meaningful networks. Our endeavor is to ensure that every member has the ecosystem they need to turn their vision into reality. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the significance of this week as we celebrate National Handloom Day. For Flow Hyderabad, promoting India's handloom heritage is not merely about preserving tradition. It is about supporting livelihoods, celebrating craftsmanship, and creating sustainable opportunities for our artisan community. Our handlooms carry stories of skill, culture, and generations of excellence, and they deserve a place not only in our history, but also in our future. With this thought, we have curated a special handloom pavilion that showcases the versatility of our weaves in contemporary fashion and modern living. We hope it inspires each one of us to embrace handlooms in our everyday lives and become ambassadors for India's remarkable textile heritage. A special thank you to Telangana Samskruti team led by Padma Somireddy, a Soul Stitch team led by Kavita Konda, and our EC member Indu Davlur for curating the handloom pavilion, and my heartfelt appreciation to all the designers from Flow fraternity for reimagining our rich handloom heritage with creativity, elegance, and pride. I would like to share a proud moment of proud milestone of our chapter. Last month, Flow Hyderabad had an honor of hosting second governing body meeting along with our Silver Jubilee celebrations, welcoming over 90 delegates from across India, including our national president, the presidium, past national presidents, and governing body members. The 2 days were marked by meaningful discussions and the meeting with the Honorable Chief Minister of Telangana, Sri Revanth Reddy Garu, during which Flow Hyderabad was allotted 1,000 square yards of land near Shilparamam for our chapter office and 1 acre at Bharat Future City, a landmark achievement that reflects the growing impact and vision of our chapter. We also have an engaging calendar of events this August, designed to inspire, inform, and empower. On 5th August, Flow Hyderabad presents the India Opportunity with Nikhil Vora, an insightful session exploring India's long-term growth story, smart investment, wealth curation, and the opportunities that lie ahead for investors and entrepreneurs alike. On 24th August, Flow Hyderabad brings you an engaging workshop with Ali Hajiani, popularly known as the Credit Card Guy. This practical and informative session will help you unlock the full potential of your credit cards, maximize rewards and benefits, and make smart financial decisions and leverage everyday spending more effectively. These sessions reflect our continued commitment to bringing meaningful conversations and practical learning opportunities to our members, and I hope many of you will join us. With this, I wish you an inspiring afternoon filled with fresh perspectives, valuable insights, and conversations that spark new ideas. Thank you. Now I request Suman Rangan Bashim to take over the session.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sita Reddy. Ladies and gentlemen behind the scene, today's session is not about questions. It's about introspection. It's about reflection. And most importantly, it's about call to action. We are looking at picking up nuggets of advice, the journey of an amazing serial entrepreneur, forward-thinking mindset, and marrying those things to our own businesses that would focus on the call to action. Addressing Miss Ghazal Alag, the person, Miss Ghazal Alag, the serial entrepreneur, Miss Ghazal Alag, the shark, different hats that she wears. Let's jump into it with a question first. Can I have a show of hands to Could I have a show of hands of people who bought a product because someone you trust recommended the product to you? Could I have a show of hands, please? Amazing. Just look at the number of people who believed in that. Trust influences decisions, undoubtedly. Today's guest has built an entire brand and foundation on that very aspect, trust. She just doesn't create products. She creates confidence in millions of consumers. She identified a gap. She challenged conventional thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, built one of India's most recognized D2C brands. That is Miss Ghazal Alag. Behind every successful entrepreneur is a story. It's not just of success. It is of courage, uncertainty, difficult decisions, and resilience. Today, it's our privilege to hear that firsthand. Let us give a thundering applause to Miss Ghazal Alag before I get the ball rolling. A thundering applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to welcome a visionary entrepreneur, an inspiring leader, and the co-founder of India's loved brands, Mamaearth, Ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into the questioning first. And this time, I'm not questioning the entrepreneur, I'm questioning the lady behind the success. So, ma'am, if I can start by talking about you first before your business, with your permission.
Yeah, that's new for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. For every entrepreneur, there is a defining moment when you step out of your comfort zone and you get convinced about what you're about to jump into. Successful companies, as we've often heard, often start with a problem. What was that exact moment? And I'm going to say something which I'm going to indulge upon. Your son, was it a parenting challenge or was it the beginning of a business? How did you decide and how did you jump into it?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the beautiful words that you used for me. When you're running a business, you're not used to as much appreciation in one go. It usually comes with a feedback. But thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, to be talking to all of you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share a bit of my story, my journey with you. Like you said, you would want the woman to answer before an entrepreneur. Actually, that is how everything started. It wasn't a business idea. It wasn't that I wanted to create a brand. It was just a first-time mother struggling to find the right kind of products to be used on her baby. It was just a mother who felt like a failure every time her baby cried because it was a shower time. Again, just a mother who wished that when my washing machine comes with a manual, why doesn't my baby come with a manual? Because, hey, how am I supposed to know how to operate this child? It's so little, and I am responsible to give it life, to give it nutrition, to take care of it, to ensure it sleeps better. And that was the only problem, and that was a very, very large problem. It was an unknown territory for me. I think any which ways being a first-time mother is hard, right? No matter what everyone around us says, nannies and daddies will say, we'll take care of the child, and as much as they want to, it's the mother eventually who has to take care of the child. And I just felt incapable. I felt like a failure back then. So I mean, I come from a middle-class family. All of that pushed me hard to get products from outside of India because I did not have an option. I was making the products in the kitchen, but again, how many times can you make it? And it's not sustainable, and there's so many things, you know, when you don't have a full-time help, there is so much work around the house, around the husband, around yourself. I used to paint, I was also working. That I just decided that, okay, I'm going to put an investment on the side and I'll continue to get products from outside of India. And that should help solve my problem till I write to the brands in India to solve this problem for me. And I wrote emails, detailed emails, giving them this idea, saying there needs to be someone who tests the ingredients to be safe on a newborn baby, because when I spoke to my friends around and family around and I spoke about this concern that Agastya was going through, I realized it wasn't just him. There were actually a lot of other babies who were having similar issues, if not as severe as that. And parents, any which ways, were ordering products from outside of India because they were concerned about the safety of what was happening in India. Now, India was, for the longest period of time, considered to be a price-conscious market. The only way brands will find growth if they go down the pyramid to the lowest price possible, and that's how penetration happens, and that's how growth comes, and that is the only sustainable model. Now that going down the price ladder was coming at a cost, and that cost was quality of ingredients that we were using, We were using ingredients that were banned in countries outside of India. They were considered cancer-causing ingredients. They had reports around them. For that matter, there was a lawsuit around this large giant company in US at the same time, where there were 150 patients who were suing that brand because their usage of their product had led to cancer in them. Like a simple thought. Are we comfortable with Hindi if I speak a little bit of Hindi? राइट वो इमोशन आई थिंक एक हिंदी की लाइन में आता है कि अगर बाकी सबके बच्चे इतना अच्छा डिजर्व करते हैं तो इंडियन बच्चे किसी से कम है क्या? डू आवर किड्स नॉट डिजर्व द बेस्ट? And even if we are ready to pay a premium, but the brand thinks that the size of that market is not very large and hence we shouldn't be entering, is that fair? I don't think that is fair, and I think that is what pushed me to solve a problem. Even then, it was nowhere around, I will build a company, I will build a brand. मुझे आता ही नहीं था, मैं कैसे सोच सकती थी? I couldn't have thought about it. I just thought that if I make a product, and even if there are just 10,000 consumers in whole of India, I would have done my job. Right? Providing them a solution which at least exists so that you have that choice. उससे पहले choice ही नहीं थी, and that I think is what led to me thinking about Mamaearth. Had the brands listened to me, I wouldn't have been here today. They would have, hey, they did not take the chance. They should have listened. It was a great opportunity, but because they did not listen is why I thought that, okay, अगर कोई और कुछ नहीं कर रहा है इस बारे में तो शायद मुझे कर लेना चाहिए, because किसी को तो first step लेना पड़ेगा. I still remember it was early 2025 when I started thinking about it, and December of 2026 is when we launched Mamaearth.
2026 or?
2016. 2016, sorry, my bad. 2015 and 2016, yeah.
It's amazing to hear the emotion, the human element behind so much of success. What really caught my attention was the helplessness, the situation that you were facing at that time, the emotional challenge. And what I loved, what you used just now, and if you notice that I'm making notes of what you're speaking, full-time husband. I think all of us suffer from that. None of us have full-time husbands. They're so engaged with what they are doing that you got to make do with whatever little you get of them. Thank you so much for sharing that nugget with us. Starting a company, it's normally, I mean, for most of us, would be really, really terrifying, especially if you have to balance family life. And your son being so small or so young, I guess the challenge was that much more compounding. What were the fears that stopped you, if at all, from launching Mamaearth? And my main question is, how did you overcome them?
I think there's a saying that one feeling can only be overcome by another feeling, right? So the feeling of fear back in the day was overcome by the feeling of excitement when I started out. Varun and I were living, like it was just Varun, me and my son living in Gurgaon in a rented apartment, he was working with one of the larger FMCGs. I was painting, I had my studio in that rented apartment. And I mean, like I would say I was making about 50,000 a month, that's about it. He was making $1.5 lakh at that time, and that is what our monthly income looked like. But that said, it was a lot. We were going on vacations, we had a car, we were paying our EMIs, we were living very comfortably, very happy. But I think that when it's your own child, right? Like when you're a mother, especially a new mother, your world revolves around your baby. There is nothing that you do in which your child doesn't come to your mind. I think even as they grow up, even today, I would say both my boys are always there somewhere in my mind, and I'm sure you guys would agree. When it comes to your child, a mother can go to any extent. If it is something that you're doing for them, it doesn't matter what the cost. It doesn't matter how scared you are. It doesn't matter how dangerous the situation is. It doesn't matter what are you giving up on. As a mother, when you're thinking about your child, you will go to any extent to give the child the comfort that he or she deserves. And I think that was the only feeling, and it was so strong कि और कोई feeling feel ही नहीं हुई. I mean, I know you wouldn't, like, maybe you would, but if I say that I wasn't scared, fear was not even an emotion that came around me. I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't thinking, what if it doesn't work? I was just thinking, what if I don't start? What if I don't do this? How long would our kids have to wait? And that feeling was so powerful that nothing else sort of mattered. For that matter, that feeling was so powerful that my husband, Varun, who's also my co-founder, decided to drop his job and join me, and we started this together. Like, it is parents just solving a problem for their child and more children of India. And आज भी मुझे लगता है अगर कोई उस feeling से शुरू करेगा ना तो nothing will stop you. It's just, how do you convert one feeling? Of course there were downsides. I was worried about the fact that 2 years from now my child has to start his school. How will I be able to afford the best education for him? But at the same time, I also realized that now is the only time, at least I have 2 years. If I think about it, after 2 years and I have to pay the fee, probably I won't be, because then I'll be choosing between what to give him, this or that. Today, I can choose to do this now and do that 2 years later and ensure that it works. The only other thing, like I said, even, previously, was that it wasn't about numbers. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about how large the idea can be. It was just about 10,000 parents per unit price जिस पे हम बेचेंगे, कौन से channels पे बेचेंगे, उसकी P&L कैसे दिखेगी, end में loss नहीं कमाएंगे, and we are okay. That was the intent. There was nothing else.
That is amazing amount of resilience and grit. And what comes out of this, what you mentioned just now, ek, a mother will do anything for a child. It resonates with so many of us out here. The second thing, what comes out of what you said just now, is you had your family support. Imagine a comfortable life. Your husband leaves a paid, comfortable job and joins you in your journey. Speaks volumes about this family support. I'm sure that is very, very important in any journey that any person, man or woman, takes. The thought in an entrepreneur is often about your first customers. How do your first customers think? How did you manage to convince complete strangers about trust in your brand? I do understand you had the statistics with you. I do understand you had the answers to the number of parents who were looking for similar products like you were looking for your children. But your brand at that time, nobody had heard of. How did you manage to convince parents?
See, I'd say I did not have any data. You think I had data? I did not have any data. The only data was how large is the baby category. That is it. Because certified safe toxin-free proposition did not exist. Nobody had taken that space. So how could you put a number to a proposition or a category size which does not exist?
Wow.
It was baby care. It was natural baby care. It was chemical baby care. Natural also had chemicals. Chemicals also had chemicals. Nothing was safe. That is about it. So that's why I'm saying that we didn't have the numbers. I went merely by my gut feeling. Say, do I feel strongly that I should be doing this? Yes, and I just did it. But before we launched, we did multiple activations and small activations, which I also call consumer survey.
Okay.
Back in the day, it was tough. Today, it's become easier with AI, Meta, etc. But back in the day, what I did was, we created sample bottles of lotion, shampoo, wash, the 5 products that I wanted to launch the brand with. This is 6 months before the launch. And Varun and I went to stores in Delhi NCR where we thought that parents like us would visit. These were largely toy stores because सिर्फ parents ही आएंगे वहाँ पे या फिर कोई किसी बच्चे के लिए कोई toy खरीदने आएगा, so relevant audience. And we stood outside those stores doing our surveys. We spoke to people ourselves. We asked them what did they understand when they looked at that label. And that label I'd created sitting in my drawing room, which still sells in the market, by the way. The entire baby range in Mamaearth, which is the white bottles, the green caps. That label is exactly what I tested the product with. And it continues to hold relevant even today. But we just showed it to consumers and we asked for their feedback. What was heartening to see is that there were a lot of parents who were looking for natural-oriented ingredients in the baby care range. And these were ingredients like calendula, these were ingredients like coconut-based gentle cleansers, etc. So that awareness existed. What is certified safe, toxin-free was a new conversation today, that time, but because it said safe, and it said tested safe by a not-for-profit organization based out of Australia, that also sat well with the consumer, saying kuch angle safety ka hai, better than the rest. What did not go at all with them was the toxin-free proposition, because they hadn't heard the word toxins before. And we had written, for example, in case of shampoo, we had written the toxins that we need to avoid in shampoo, like sulfates. In lotions, we had written parabens, which is a toxin to be avoided in lotions and leave-on products. They felt it is something that's, so when it said sulfate-free, paraben-free, they said it's a free product, that it's something free that we are going to buy if we buy this product. So they kept asking us, what is free with it? What is free with it? So that is where I understood that, okay, this is a gap. This will need a lot of education, otherwise consumers will not understand how to pick up these products, what to understand. And after launch, we launched ourselves on Amazon Launchpad. But we had done such extensive consumer surveys before launching. We had spoken to so many of our friends. I had personally spoken to 1,500 moms online. And these moms existed, उस टाइम पे influencers नहीं होते थे, उस टाइम पे blogs होते थे. They used to write articles on childcare, and these were just community of moms that were interacting with each other. They were understanding each other's problems, giving solutions, just helping each other out raise the baby. And I was a part of a couple of those communities, but then I found more communities like that. And I spoke and I tested, and 1,500 moms ke saath I interacted on the phone. That is what gave me insight into how to launch the brand, what to communicate on products, what to say that the other parents will understand, how to harp on safety first before I introduce the toxin-free story. And even then, because it was new and we weren't sure, we just launched on Amazon Launchpad. We did not even have our own website. Our website was purely education website. You come on Mamaearth website, you'll be able to see the products that we have. Why are we selling that? What are the ingredients? Where are we sourcing the ingredients from? What are the safety standards that we are adhering to? What are the 1,500 known toxins that are banned outside of India, which are still being used in Indian products? So it was all education, and I think a little bit of word of mouth, because I'd spoken to as many people, and a little bit of the educational website where people felt that, okay, brand is not here to sell, but it's here just to educate us, just to make us know what we don't know. And I'm sure they were coming on the website and then they were doing their own research and something clicked, and that led to trust. That led to them trusting us that this brand is not selling. They are just communicating, and if they understood the proposition, if they believed in it, they would buy. But the response was so overwhelmingly, I would say, nice, that in the first 3 months on Amazon, 2 of our products ended up becoming bestsellers. And that is where genuinely the journey of Mamaearth started. Usse pehle, I would say that was our product market fit, where we realized, okay, people are understanding it. If we go aggressive, we reach out to more people, we will get more sales. After 4 months is when we hired our first employee. Till then, it was just Varun and I working out of our home. He was sitting out of an agency because he couldn't work from home around a child. The child cried, and then he needed feeds, and he needed naps, and he needed me, and he couldn't work in that environment. So he was working out of one of the agency offices that he used to work with in his previous company while I was working from home with my child. And for the first 6 months, I did not have a single team member. The first team member that we hired after 3 months was to pack and dispatch. कि हम ब्रांड बना लेते कुरियर तो कोई और कर दे प्लीज and that's how I would say those were our first 2 or 3 steps.
You know, if I have to capture what you said in one line, I would say this is the human in the AI world. This is the emotional capture that made you, I mean, imagine without data, without computers, without having to know where to go, a small child in the house, many of us would take shelter or would hide behind reasons why we really can't move ahead. And here is a mother who fought against all odds, had her husband leave a comfortable job and join in. You actually answered my next question, where I was going to say, how did you balance out between deep research and agility and responsiveness? You answered that question so perfectly well. Trying, connecting with people on a human level, it has been amazing. Ms. Sita, I would request you to add a question here, because I would feel, that we need to represent such a wide spectrum of ladies present here. Could you add something here to bring out the best that we can offer our ladies?
Thank you, Suman. Ghazal, the past few years have exposed supply chain and logistic challenges across industries. What were some of the toughest operational lessons you've learned while scaling up your business?
See, I have a beautiful team now which helps me at every stage in time in scaling the business to what it is today. It's a large business. I have a large team. We are like almost 2,500 people in corporate office. But I would say that challenges come at each and every stage, no matter how small, how big, how large. The impact of some of those challenges can vary. Right? When you're a smaller business, some of these supply chain issues can seem severe because it's a do and die situation for you. You're so small that if for any reason you're not able to supply, you die, right? So at that time, the severity of some of these challenges seemed very, very high. Today, because we are at a certain scale, we have established ourselves, the business is healthy enough to absorb some of these ups and downs. Price hikes, raw material availability, the impact of war, etc. We're going through all of it. We have a monthly impact of about anywhere between 10 to 15 crores a month on the business. But we have so many other levers because of the scale of the business that we are able to manage it so that it doesn't impact the P&L a lot. But had this been 10 years back, when I was just starting out, I would have either needed to raise the prices to absorb some of those price hikes. I would either have to probably change my formulations because a certain raw material was not available, because if I don't give it out to my consumers, they will go buy something else. They are not going to wait for the availability of that RM, and that for me is losing a consumer. It's almost putting all the effort that you have till date go down the drain because you're not able to solve that problem. It's business's responsibility to solve. Even if it means that you have to figure an alternate raw material, you have to figure an alternate product, you have to communicate honestly with your consumer about price hikes. Even if it means you have to talk about unavailability and why you're not able to compromise so that at least your consumer knows how you're thinking. That is the business's responsibility, and I think not a lot of businesses do that. We feel कि business की problem है तो चुप रह जाओ, कोई बात नहीं, consumers eventually will come back. Today the consumer, see, all of us are consumers, right? All of us are very smart. We have so many smart women here. We know when the other person communicates. How do we understand that communication? We also know when the other person gets quiet. We usually believe that, okay, might be something wrong and hence that person is not speaking. Make your business human. Treat it like a person talking to another person. Your conversations will change, your updates will change, the way you talk to them will change, and that is what I believe that today consumers value. Overselling तो हर कोई कर रहा है, बड़ा brand, छोटा brand, multiple rounds of messages, promos, just pushing you to buy, but we don't feel like buying. We feel like buying what actually feels like it's ours. It's talking in a language that we understand. It's talking in a language that we would talk to our family. So I think some of those supply chain issues, the severity of them depend on what scale or stage of the business you're at. But till the time the communication is honest and you understand that it's business's responsibility to solve the problem because the consumer will not wait, I mean, you'll find your way, you'll sail through.
I'm sure many of us will take this back home. Treat your business like a person and talk to your business. This is amazing. What I want to ask you is, when you just mentioned when Mamaearth started, toxin to kisi ko samajh mein nahi aata tha. Terms like natural and toxin free was not mainstream. At that stage, you went on and launched Honasa. I'm sure most of us know, but for those of us who, please correct me if I'm wrong, does Honasa actually stand for honesty, natural and safe care?
It does. How did you know that? Not a lot of people know that.
Research I've done on you.
I am so surprised. Nobody understands that Honasa is actually a mix of 3 different words, but you're absolutely right.
And you know, it so resonates with all of us. So I want to ask you, you went on in 2016 and launched Honasa, which was the parent company of brands and Mamaearth, all in 2016. Here's my question. What made you confident to diversify when many people would have preferred playing safe?
Yeah, legal requirement थी उस time पे और मुझे पता नहीं था. So I thought the brand name is the only name that you need, and you go out and you launch. And I think 2 months before launching, they said, "Oh, but you need to have a company." It's like, what company? We said, name a company. Now, I was in a car ride to a manufacturer. How do I name a company just like that? But like, people were on the other side waiting to do the paperwork that we have to do this today, otherwise it'll be late by 45 days. So then the company name was what the essence of Mamaearth was. It wasn't supposed to be a house of brands then. I had absolutely no idea. उस time पे Mamaearth एक ही brand बन जाता छोटा सा, 100 crore का, we would have been like really, really happy. So I just went by what the essence of Mamaearth was. Mamaearth as a brand was based on honesty. It will always use natural ingredients was a promise that we made to ourselves. We said we will work with nature's laboratories. We will pull out actives from the natural ingredients, which are less harsher. And we were committed to safety. Even today, each and every product in Mamaearth is certified safe. If it's not certified safe, approved by that NGO sitting out of Australia, we will not launch that product. So these were the 3 pillars purely related to Mamaearth. We said, okay, so HO from honest, NA from natural, and SA from safe, Honasa. And that's how the company got formed.
Today, that's the parent company of...
That's the parent company, yes.
It's really, really amazing. Another very, very personal question, if I can take the liberty. When you look back, most difficult phase in the entrepreneurial journey that you've had, which people outside the company could not see?
There are so many. There are so many. They exist even today. But you want me to talk about the challenges that people outside can't see,
yes,
right?
Yes, please. Yes. What probably gripped you?
Which stage of my career should I talk about? Tell me that, because so many of them are coming to my mind.
Just to keep the balance here, we have ladies here who are doing startups, ladies in the middle stage of their business, and ladies who have really progressed in their business. They're doing amazingly well. I would say the middle stage would benefit maximum, for the startups looking ahead.
Sure.
For the advanced.
Sure. But like you said, 3 stages, let me give you one challenge in each stage, right? I think the first biggest challenge was right when I was starting out. As I said, I was a young mother. I used to take calls with phone in one hand and my baby in the other hand. On a lot of calls, the baby started crying for whatever reason. I didn't have a support staff for the longest period of time. My parents were living in Delhi, we were in Gurgaon, so it was just me and him most of the day, and I had to work. The biggest challenge back in the day, I felt, was the loss of empathy that a lot of people naturally showed. They didn't even realize it, probably. I would talk to admins of these parent communities, and I would expect them to understand they are also moms. They are running groups of moms. There are so many kids in the group, right? Day and night, we are talking about how to go through different challenges. And sometimes they themselves said that, Ghazal, you're not able to handle the baby. How will you handle the business? And I've heard this not just from this side of my extended family, because I used to call them extended family, but from different people in different circles. I've heard this from investors, I've heard this from manufacturers, I've heard this from people that I tried to work with, that you first need to take care of baby, how else would you take on more? And I felt that was something that nobody understood. What was I feeling? Why was I putting myself through all of this pain to crack a formulation? Why was it so important for me? I felt early on no one understood that paranoia, that drive, that passion, which was so, I would say, like it was so relentless that I was okay not sleeping. I was surviving on 2 hours of sleep, because at night I used to work with Australia and US to get the certifications, and during the day I used to work with India partners. So I was putting in all of that effort, but I felt that nobody around me was understanding what I'm doing, why am I doing, and how I'm doing. I think then the business scaled. We were at, let's say, a decent mid-scale, 100 crore kind of a brand. During that time, see, I don't come from an FMCG experience, right? I'm just a mother trying to start a business, trying to sell products in a category where you have giants who've existed for more than 100 years. There's no right for me to exist. And that's the feeling that a lot of other people had. Why is she in this business? And they asked, like they even asked, and I had whatever answers I had, but then right? When you're young, log kitna hi sunte hain aapko. And they have more doubts than conviction for you. Varun, on the other hand, came from an FMCG background. So it was easier for people to believe that he'll be able to run the business, but what is my role within the company? So I got questioned on that. This is when the brand was 100 crores. This is when I was leading product formulation. This is when I had taken it to a decent stage to be taken seriously. But again, at what stage do finally people start to believe in you or start to trust you? And actually that was the mid stage when I shouldn't be using the word, but then I said I don't care about anyone else around me. I will just focus on my work, on how I'm feeling, on how my team is feeling. If they have questions, I'm more than ready to answer that. But if anyone else has an issue, I'm sorry, either have relevant questions or I don't pay heed to you. So I had to develop that skin, which was slightly, thick, indifference. And today, I would say that कम है challenges, सब लोग seriously लेते हैं, बात भी सुनते हैं, advice भी मांगते हैं. But again, the challenges are very different. Now we are at a stage where we are neither small nor we are large. We are somewhere in the middle, right? And to build a business in a category which is beauty, and I'm sure all of you know, it's the most cluttered category. There's no other category in which you'll see as much competition as exists in beauty today. It's not just Indian brands, it's not just young brands, it's older brands, it's brands coming from outside of India, and suddenly India is the focus market for everyone, globally, right? So, okay, now how do you build and still continue to grow disproportionately, still continue to drive profitability, and still acquire more consumers, still continue to build new brands, identify newer propositions. And I think that is my strength, which a lot of people don't understand. Honasa is the only company in India which is building brands from the scratch and scaling them to more than 100 crore. There is no other company
That calls
in the
for
country
a thundering applause, ladies and gentlemen.
who has the ability to craft their own brands. They can acquire, they can sell, purchase, they can do all of that. Ability to craft a new brand and scale it to 100 crores, none of the other large listed or unlisted FMCG companies have, and that is our strength. It is still something that not a lot of people understand. They don't understand this when they are valuing us. They don't understand that Honasa has actually built 10 brands in the last 10 years. Maximum number of brands that have been created in the country in beauty space in the last 10 years. Given the confidence to so many other people to enter beauty as a category, supported them, guided them, and they are also now large enough to have a name in the... That is our strength, which I would love more people to understand about us.
You know, you resonate what you said just now in your expression, in your body language, and in the way you speak, your tonality. It is amazing how convinced you are. And it's that conviction which brings in the trust among the people who use your products. So thank you for sharing that. The human element is amazingly stark in everything you do or say. I'm going to ask you to give me a one-liner, so I'm just making it more difficult. Sorry for that, but I'm going to make it more difficult. A one-liner, one big decision you wish you had taken earlier. Give me this answer in one line.
I've taken all the big decisions at the time I wanted to take it. I don't believe in living with regret at any point of time. So I will rather do, fail, than not do at all.
Wow. One decision you're glad you never listened to others about.
How an entrepreneur should be, especially a woman entrepreneur. How should you behave? How should you lead life? How should your social look? Like, till today, exists till today. I don't listen.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Now, you've been on both the sides of the table. You've been a founder raising capital. You're a shark evaluating business now. How do you plan the funding journey? What do you look at when you look at entrepreneurs planning their funding journey? When should they raise capital? On the other hand, what numbers tell you? What is it that the numbers tell you about a business that is truly investment ready? So two parts of the question, one as a founder and one as a shark.
I think as a founder, you should raise investment. One, only if your business really needs it early on. If you think that without that raise, you can't build a business. And do it at a stage where you have the product market fit. Today, it's very easy to identify product market fit. I mean, in a business like mine, in any consumer-first business, you have Facebook, you can put in 10,000, 15,000 rupees, you can target your consumers, you can see how many people clicked on that ad, how many people were interested, added to the cart, how many people eventually finally paid. Send an apology message because you don't have the product, but that's how you test your product market fit before you invest even a single penny into designing a company, forming a company, or thinking about if I should build this idea or not. This is the experiment which should tell you if you should be building or not. And once you have product market fit, then check. What is the amount of money that I have of myself? How do I want to use that money? If you have that money, if you don't have that money, what is the amount of money that my business needs for the next 1 year, and raise accordingly. So if you can bootstrap your way, you have decent, it might come at the cost of growth. Growth might be slightly slower, but then that's okay, because once you're at, even if you're at zero today, even if you reach a 50 lakh monthly sale number, you'll be able to raise at a better valuation. And you'll have a stronger product market fit. So the amount of equity that we dilute early on is far higher than what we can at the later stage. But that said, it depends on the business that you're building. It depends on the comfort that you're looking at. I raised early on a friends and family round because I knew I had 30 lakhs, but I didn't want the pressure of not having money come in the way of building a business. So I raised. And then I again raised after 6 months because I had the product market fit. I knew the market existed. I knew there were other brands looking at us because our products were coming in the best-selling rank and they would jump in. So for me, it was speed to market. I wanted to grow faster and hence I raised money. Had that not been the case, I would have been okay bootstrapped and been okay with a slower growth journey as well, right? So that's one. What was the second question? I'm sorry.
The second question is, what numbers tell you that business is truly investment ready?
Yeah, so that was from a founder's perspective. Now from an
Now from a
investor
shark's, yes.
perspective, I wish it was easier to just look at numbers and say this is a business worth investing. Never the case, at least never has been the case with me. For me, it's very important to, so I'll give you a small example of Shark Tank, right? Very, very small example. So when we were at Shark Tank, businesses come, they pitch, they give you the numbers. What you're looking at is only from the founder's lens. They are only showing you the numbers that they want us to see, right? Now, in that, you take a decision to the best of your ability, and either you invest or you don't invest. Now, the lesson that I learned when I went out of the show and I checked their products and I checked consumer reviews, I understood that, oh, what they're saying is very different from how consumers are perceiving the products. And hence, that might or might not be the right investment. So I think I've learned a lot. I'm far more patient with my investments now. There are 3 things that I look at in any business before investing. First is category that they're building in and the business model. That needs to make sense. Second, the numbers that they're showing, like you said. And third, but the most important, founder's credibility. Who has the founder worked with in the past? Who is he working with right now? What do people, even if there are just a couple of people who know them, have to say about them? Because a founder can present data in whatever way they want, but will a founder be ethical enough to present the problems the way they should be presented, to present the challenges the way they should be presented, to be honest enough, especially when the time is tough, is very, very important. So yeah, for me, business model, numbers, and then founder's credibility in that order.
I would have loved to go deeper into this, but time pressing, I'm going to ask you to take one more deep dive and a quick answer to this question. Shark Tank or board meeting, which is more challenging?
Any day board meeting. Shark Tank is easy. Shark Tank is easy. Board meeting is about strategy, next 2-year plan, 5-year plan, vision of the business. That is the one that makes you lose sleep.
Very difficult to visualize, but I'll just take your word for it.
See, Shark Tank is fun. Shark Tank is,
It's your money getting invested
it's our
somewhere.
money, there is no doubt about it, but it is also something that entrepreneurs thrive on, right? Listening to other entrepreneurs and their ideas. And it excites us. It truly excites us. We spend 12 hours shooting, but we spend 12 hours of being so excited, encouraged, and like we look forward to every pitch because we want to know what more is happening out there. What are other people looking at? What are the opportunities? How are they building? It is genuinely very exciting. Of course, we have to part away with our money, but then we try and make intelligent choices. Thus investment में से अगर 2 investment भी अच्छा कर गई, it pays you back for all the other investments. So as an investor, there will always be more companies that will not work and lesser companies that will work. But the companies that will work will give you far higher returns, and that is something that an investor needs to ensure.
Actually gave us a bird's eye view of what, and I won't call you a shark. Somehow when I look at you with the dainty look, the very feminine outfit, I'd rather call you an investor than call you a shark. It just doesn't fit in this persona.
But she's a very intelligent shark, okay?
You know, somehow the word shark is a little ferocious, and when you look at her, she just doesn't fit into that persona.
Of course.
Almost my last question. I have just one more after this. We all heard about you you making your product, I'm going to ask you a question where customers help you make up your mind. D2C consumers often are not just buyers. They offer to shape your product. Could you share an example where a consumer feedback helped you develop a product, one option, or significant pivot to your approach? Any one which you've taken.
See, in our company at Honasa, across all the 10 brands that we have, every product is made with our consumers. We don't know any other way. We started doing that when we created products in Mama Earth, asking fellow mothers, what is the product that they want, right? What kind, do they want a shampoo or a head to toe? At what age group would they start using a sunscreen? When do, and how often do they use a mosquito repellent? And they would give us insights. Formulation is something that my R&D does. But again, even in those formulations, we usually create 5 to 7 different formulations. We send it across. We still have our panel of moms. We still have our panel of Gen Z. Now we have Aqualogica, Bee Blunt, etc. So different age groups, different age cohorts, different groups of 1,500 to 2,000 people. And these people help us test our products, give feedback, check our communication, check our packaging. Should this body wash come in a pump or a flip-top cap? We don't decide that. They help us decide that.
Ladies, did you hear what I just heard? Something that we can marry to our own businesses. Her consumers, her feedback process is so amazing that her consumers decide the products or pivot the way forward. I think all of us, in whichever stage of our business we are, we could really imbibe that thought process and help us take our businesses forward. Thank you so much for sharing that point with us. I'll come to my last question now so that I'm not hogging the limelight and I allow other people to take this on. 20 years from now, 20 years from now, ladies, let's listen to this and see what we can take home from this. What
I'll be
would
old.
make you? What would make
20
you?
years from now, I'll be old.
20 years from now, what would make you happier? People remembering your company as a very, very successful company, or people remembering Ghazal Alag as someone who inspired thousands of women to build businesses? Don't say both, please.
I wouldn't. It's a very clear answer in my mind. I want my company to be known as one of the best, one of the largest, and the number one choice of consumers 20 years from now. I mean, women today are so smart, I don't think they need to remember who encouraged them or guided them. Like, we are going to have role models and more role models every year. They are going to come. I don't think that is a place that I want to hold, but of course, when people say that Honasa Consumer, the largest beauty and personal care company in the country, profitable, 25 brands, was started by Ghazal Alag, I think that's a moment of pride for me. That is what I want to be remembered for.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. That means what you've really told us, that there is something in us which we need to explore and, of course, build a monument like you have built. Thank you so much.
Truly, like after 20 years, when you sit down and look at back, so that is a happiness, like, it gives.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank
Ghazal.
you.
Thank you so much for your answers. It's been absolutely we've heard it from your heart. Nothing could be better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ghazal Alag, for the truly candid and enriching conversation. One that has shown us that behind every success story is resilience, purpose, and persistence. I now invite our Senior Vice Chairperson, Ms. Gunjan Sindhi, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Namaskar. Entrepreneurship is built not by talent alone, but by the courage to begin, the grit to persevere, and the confidence to keep going. As we conclude this inspiring evening, it is my privilege on behalf of FICCI Flow Hyderabad to extend a heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made this event a success. A sincere thanks to Ms. Ghazal Alag for sharing her inspiring entrepreneurial journey and reminding us that resilience and conviction are the true pillars of success. A heartfelt thank you to our moderator, Dr. Suman Rangabhashim, for her thoughtful curation and engaging conversation. A special note of gratitude to our past chairs whose wisdom, encouragement, and constant guidance continue to illuminate our path. Our heartfelt gratitude to our premium diamond sponsor, DSR Group, Tibaru Mal Jewelry, for your unwavering support. Our sincere thanks to Swastik Vikas Foundation, our premium platinum initiative sponsor, for championing meaningful initiatives. We thank our hospitality partner, Dasapalla, and press and media for their valued support. Our heartfelt appreciation to Padma Somi Reddy and the Telangana Samskruti team, Kavita Kunda, and the Soul Stitch team, Indu Davlur, for curating the beautiful handloom pavilion. A special thank you to all our designers for showcasing
and presence and encouragement. As we conclude this evening, let us remember the future belongs to those who dare dream boldly. Thank you everyone. Have a wonderful evening and be the winners for our team.